She's live. She's live. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. It is Monday. I'm putting a big old smile on my face because I want to talk about my brother today. My brother, my brother, my brother, my brother. I'm going to hold up this photo for a few minutes until y'all get on. Hello, everybody. Hello. Today is 5 years since my baby brother passed away. And this is a story which I will tell you and share with you because I'm very open. Guys, I come live here because I am creating impact. I want to be able to create an impact. I want to be able to share with people so that they can see themselves in my stories and seek somebody that is relatable, right? I want you to be able to seek relation to me so that I can help you, so that I can create impact in your life. So today is 5 years since my brother died. His name is Tom Gillis. This is the last photo that I had ever had taken with him. And I'm going to tell you how I came about this in just a minute. But I want to talk today about addiction because a lot of addiction we normalize. There's a lot of addiction that we actually normalize because we're trying to cope and we think that this is normal, right? But I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about my life. I'm also going to share a little bit about my family. Is that okay with you? Yes or yes? If so, drop a yes in the comments. If you're catching me live, the red light's on. If you're not catching me live, the red light won't be on, but I will probably come back and read some of these comments because this is a big subject. So if you know somebody that needs to hear about addiction, if you know somebody that needs to hear about pills, about heroin, about drugs, about alcohol, if you know somebody that needs to hear about food noise, if you know somebody that needs to hear about sugar addiction, I mean, this is going to go on and on and on because I'm going to share a lot with you today in this live. So buckle up, put on your seatbelts, and let's go. I am coming to you today with a heart full of gratitude from my brother. It's his 5-year anniversary. 5 years, 5 years, 5 years since he passed away. He was 5 years younger than me. And he passed away 5 years ago to this day, April 13th. So we grew up in a household where my dad passed away when I was 7 and my brother was 2. He was 2, I was 7. So we were 5 years apart on his 5th anniversary. And when we were young, our father died and our mother was alone. She was a widow very young. We also grew up in a home that had an alcoholic dad. He was highly addicted to alcohol. We had a grandmother that was absolutely addicted to alcohol. We had another grandmother who was absolutely addicted to alcohol. So I grew up around addiction, lots of addiction in my life. My mother didn't drink. She just didn't drink because she didn't love being around alcohol, frankly. I'll just be honest and open about that. So long story short, right, there's a couple of ways you can go. When my dad died, we were poor. We lived in the projects. We didn't have a lot of money. It wasn't like we were like, scraping off the ground, but I'll never forget being a small child. My mom went back to school. She had to learn how to do something, right, to be able to support us. So I can remember sitting under the desk at her school. She was learning to be a court stenographer. I was probably 7, 8, 9 years old. I don't know how old I was at that point, but I remember a lot about my dad, and not a whole lot, but some things. I remember he called me princess, but I don't remember, or I don't know what it's like to be able to call somebody daddy, right? And so that part, as a woman at my age, 53 years old next week, I'll be 53. It's hard. And lots of things that I probably haven't dealt with or healed in my own life, but I'm open to sharing them because I know that it can impact and help somebody else. So let's move forward with the story, okay? Because I want to talk about you next. So my brother went down the one path that he decided to choose, and nobody chooses drugs. Drugs choose you because guess what? You get to escape from your pain. You get to escape from that feeling, whether it's alcohol, whether it's heroin, whether it's pain medication, opiates, whether it's sugar, whether it's a little bit of wine that you're having after work every single night, or the couple of beers you crack and you call it normal because it's beer and you can buy it at the local store. So my brother, when he was young, about 16, got into drugs. Whether he started with weed, I don't know. I don't really know what got him started. I'm sure being around certain friends, doing his thing, but it led to heroin. addiction, full-blown heroin addiction. And my brother and I were 5 years apart. And as we grew up, I went one way, he went another way. And I kind of separated myself from him. And I share this story because I never want anybody to feel bad about not choosing to partake in the life of somebody else who's choosing drugs or choosing wrong. I didn't want it around my kids. I didn't want it around myself. So I chose to stay away. So I also chose to protect myself because at this point, I've already lost my father to alcohol. I've already lost grandmothers to alcohol. And I knew ding, 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 ding at some point that I was going to have to protect my heart from losing my brother. Okay. It's just goes without saying. I knew that someday, some point, I was going to have to protect myself from the death of my brother. So to me, it was easier in the moment to already deem him not there than it would have been for me to lose him and have to deal with the pain. And not that it wasn't painful, because the day the police came knocking on my door was awful. It was awful. Watching my mother have to go through it was pretty hard. But I also recognize you. I want to say, if you're the sibling of a drug addict or the sibling of another child in crisis, even I want to go down as far as to talk about being the sibling of somebody that might be autistic, or the sibling of somebody who just needs all the attention of the parents, right? Because you are a pretty special individual. You've learned to navigate life by yourself. You've learned to become a very strong person. And I know that because I live this life. Meaning I was always going to fend for myself. I was always going to protect myself. I was always going to figure out a way. So I look at my childhood as an absolute blessing. I do not look at it as a poor me. I'm a victim. I'm not a victim. I'm a victor. Why? Because I chose to take the same life that my brother chose to go down one direction. I chose to go down another direction. And let me preface that because that's part of addiction, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But people will say things to me like, you're so strong, you're so confident. Guys, you become that by doing the same things over and over and over again. You don't just become that because you want to become that. You become that because you're in survival mode your whole life. You become that because you have to become that. And I'm always grateful that that's who I've become. Okay. So let's fast forward this a little bit more. The last time I saw my brother was this picture, and I keep it on my wall. If you guys know me, I have a whole wall of black and whites. And this day was a day that my mom couldn't find him, right? So when you live with a sibling that does heroin or does drugs, watching the mother of that child is really difficult, because the mother of that child is always stressed out, always worried, always wondering. Holidays come, holidays go. You don't hear from your loved one. You pray to God that they go to jail, because that's the only time that you know that they're safe is when they're in jail. So that's when you can sleep, right? When you're able to know that your child is in jail. And if you guys know somebody that needs to hear this story, tag them in the comments, because I'm about to talk about some other things as well. But literally, that's when you know your loved one is safe, is when they're in jail, right? Versus on the streets, versus sticking a needle in their arm, versus being in the wrong place at the wrong time, versus whatever, picturing and envisioning them on the ground, sleeping outside on the floor. Your mind cannot, literally, as a mom, I don't know how your mind can wrap your head around something like that. It must be horrific. That's what I'll say for that. Okay. But as the sibling of it, right, I had a disconnect from those things. So this one particular time, my mom couldn't find him for whatever reason. I said, I'll go look for him. I drove into Boston, where I knew that he hung out, and I started driving around, and guess what? Needle in a haystack. Guess who turns up? Yep, my brother. And so I literally put my car in park right in the middle of the road. I jumped out. I had a big white Suburban. Big, huge white Suburban. Jumped out, left it in the middle of the road. The cop was yelling at me, "You can't leave your car there." And I'm like, listen, this is important. I got to find my brother. I know he's around here. And there he was. So I got out. I walked straight over to him, and I said, "Hey." And he said, he was obviously shocked to see me standing in the street. And if you live local, you know the Boston medical area, you know where the drug addicts or the people that are on drugs at the time hang. That's where I found him, needle in a haystack, needless to say. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm looking for you. Mom's looking for you. We can't find you." And he's like, "Why do you care?" And I said, "Because I'm your sister and I love you and I care." And that's all I needed to say. I couldn't get him to get in the car with me at first, but as soon as I said those words, so I'm telling you now, you need to make sure your loved one knows that you love them. Because I think that they think they're so full of shame for what they're doing that they think that everybody just hates them, that they're no good. Think about it for a minute. Think about it for a minute coming from that perspective. So in that exact moment, I got him to come to my car. He was afraid that I was going to take him to a rehab. He didn't want to be rehabbed at the time, so he wasn't going to go there. We talked. We had a conversation. I asked him, please, to get help, and he said he would. And I promised him I wouldn't take him anywhere. We just talked. And before he got out of the car, I said, "Let's take a photo." So this is the photo I took. I'm leaning in the passenger side of my door, taking a photo of us together. And that was it. That was the last time I saw my brother. I'm glad that it was on a good note because that's important. So fast forward 5 years ago, 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m., the police knock on my front door. My mother's living here and at the in-law, thank goodness, because I already knew that day was going to come. Like I told you, I already knew that day would come. So I was able to go in and get my mom and have her sit down on her couch, have the police come in and tell us that my brother died. Now, funny part is my brother didn't die because he was like overdosed. That's what I pictured my whole life, was he was going to probably die of a heroin overdose. He got hit by a car. He got hit by a car crossing the street at 4:00 in the morning. Right? So he probably shouldn't have been on the street crossing it at 4:00 in the morning. He was coming from a hotel with his girlfriend, and our little child was there as well. And he had no phone. He had no money. He had no wallet. He had no ID on him, nothing. And so when the police found him, they remembered him from earlier that night, which is a whole nother story. I'm not going to get into that. But the sad part is that the person that hit him drove away. And the person that hit him was an elderly person. That's what the police officer told us. If you live local and you're watching this on my personal page and you follow the Karen Reed story, the officer Proctor, Michael Proctor, was the one that came to my door. And to this day, I wished maybe now we looked a little bit more into it. If you don't know, Michael Proctor was fired from all of Mass State Police because of his wrongdoings in the Karen Reed case. Okay, so there's that. Now, this may or may not hit home to anybody, but, oops, sorry, Steph, I'm live. Can you hear me okay? I just got a call. Sometimes that interrupts it. Let me just tell my friend that I'm live quickly. My phone rings every time I'm live. It's bizarre. Hey, I'm just live right now. I'll call you back in a few minutes. Okay. So addiction isn't something we hope for. It's something people fall into while they're trying to cope. So the reason I told you about my father dying when my brother was 2 and I was 7 was because addiction isn't something we hope for. It's something we fall into while we're trying to cope. So as far as that goes, I will always hope and pray that that's how my brother coped because he didn't know any other way. And, that's what I think about that. People are struggling in ways that we don't always see, we don't always hear, we don't always know. And sometimes to be taken away from that situation for just a little bit feels good. But let's talk about what addiction really is. It's not just drugs or alcohol. Addiction is not just drugs. It's not heroin. It's not just alcohol. It's not just booze, right? It's anything you go back to for relief, even when you know it's not helping. So anything that you're going back for relief, even if you know it's not good for you, right? So let's talk about this for a minute. A little bit of wine at night, right? Who's coming home and cracking the bottle of wine every night? Okay. A little something to relax, a couple of puffs of your joint. I don't know. Food Food, food, food when the day is over. How many of y'all are getting into food, right? Sugar addiction is a real thing. Okay. Scrolling to escape, scrolling social media to escape addiction, overworking. Okay. So you could look at my brother and you could look at me and you could say that he ran that way. I ran towards working, towards just go, 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 rushing woman's syndrome. That's probably what I have, is rushing woman's syndrome. And I have a lot of gray hair as well. Addiction is like avoiding your life. You're avoiding things. You're avoiding your life. It's not about the thing. It's about what the thing does for you. That's what addiction is. It's about what the thing does for you. It's about the way it makes you feel, just like a vision board. I talk about this a lot in my private coaching programs. A vision board is something that we can all create, and it's amazing and it's so beautiful to look at, but it's not about what we stuck on the board. It's about the thing on the board and how it makes us feel. That's what a vision board is about. How do you feel when you look at that board? What does having that thing do for you? That's what that's all about, right? A vision board. It's not looking at pretty photos all day of the cars and the boat, right? I put up the boat that I want in the BVI. That is, I'm telling you that is going to make me feel a certain way when I can afford a $2.3 million catamaran parked down in Tortola at Nanny K with a chef and a freaking crew on it. That vision for me is about the way that makes me feel. So if that makes sense, drop a heck yeah, I get what you're saying, right? And why does addiction happen? So many things. Stress, you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, you're tired, you're trying to figure out something to push through that day. Pain, right? Addiction can start from pain, being in pain, right? And you pop a little pill to help you feel a little bit better, right? Because when you take a pill, you feel like Superwoman or Superman, and Superman and Superwoman can get the job done, okay? Feeling out of control, right? You're not trying to mess up. You're just trying to feel better. That's what addiction's about. You're not trying to mess up, right? Maybe it's eating a cinnamon bun in the ride home in the car, but you got one in the bag. You don't eat the one, you don't eat 2 or 3 in front of your family. You eat the one, but the other 2 on the ride home, oh, that made you feel good. That made you feel a certain way. And don't laugh about sugar addiction, because sugar addiction is working on your brain just as if you took a snort of cocaine. Okay. Sugar addiction acts as if you just took a sniff of cocaine. Okay. I'm just going to be honest. I'm telling it like it is right now because I'm pretty much no BS, as you know. So people don't choose addiction. They choose the relief of what the addiction does for them. I don't care if it's heroin. I don't care if it's a little bit of wine after work. Again, the phone's ringing. Child number 2. Let me just tell her. I'm on a live. I'll be back in a minute. So it's not about you choosing your vice. It's about how that vice makes you feel. Okay. So you feel something uncomfortable, you reach for the thing, right? What is it? I don't know. You just came home from a long day of work. You got 64 emails that you couldn't handle. Your boss screamed at you. So what do? The first thing you do is you pop open the cork, right? You pop off the cork, you pour yourself a glass of wine. That happens night 1. Then night 2, you realize, ooh, that little glass of wine felt good. Right? That beer felt amazing. I think I'm going to do it again tomorrow. Then you're going to do it again on, I don't know, Friday, and then Saturday, and then Sunday, right? I know friends that run away from changing their life because they're more worried about spending their Friday and Saturday night out drinking and partying than they are about fixing what's going on Monday through Friday. They choose to run on the 2 days of the weekend instead of fixing their freaking life. Why? Because fixing their freaking life is hard. So they choose to cope Monday through Friday so that they can go play all weekend, have a massive hangover on Sunday and get nothing done, and start the cycle over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. If you know people like that, drop a heart in the comments. It could be you. I don't know. There's literally no judgment here. I don't care. I'm just telling you from my heart. Okay. So you feel something uncomfortable, they reach for the thing, they feel the relief. Then guess what happens? Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Then you feel the guilt, the shame, the fog, the crash, right? That's what happens. And then you repeat it again and again and again. That's what happens. That's not weakness. That's a learned pattern. It's a learned pattern. It's going over and over and over and over again. That's what that means, okay? You don't have a willpower problem. It's not about willpower. You can't out-discipline coping, right? You out-discipline out-discipline it. It just doesn't happen. It feels good. It's a pattern. This goes deeper than just trying a little bit harder. It goes much deeper than trying harder. You have to be aware. First of all, you have to be aware. What do you reach for when you're stressed? Think about it. What do you do when you're stressed? What do you reach for? How about when you're tired? How about when you're overwhelmed, overstimulated? What do you reach for? Right? Over emotional. What do you reach for? What do you do in that moment? No judgment. I'm asking you to notice it. Just notice it. What are you doing in those moments? Awareness is where change starts, and only awareness. That's step number one to changing any pattern. Even if you're addicted to drugs, even if you're addicted to heroin, even if you're doing what my brother did, every single time he checked himself or he went into a rehab, it started with awareness. Number one, right? Being aware. Number two, what's next, right? What's next? You have got to get honest with yourself so that you can start shifting. I mean, you have to start to realize, hey, this is not fine. Why do I keep saying it's fine? It's not fine. You have to name the pattern, call it what it is. You can't change what you won't face, period. You cannot change what you won't face. And if we're constantly hiding it and brushing it under the rug and not telling people, that's a problem. You don't have to do it all alone. See, that's the best part. You don't have to do it all alone. But one thing that I created, my technique is I decide. I decide. When the urge hits, stop. Pause. I decide. That 1 minute can change everything for you. That 1 minute, right? Second you open that bottle of wine, pause, stop. I decide I'm not doing this tonight. I decide I'm not doing this tonight. But here's the thing. You've got to fill that pause with something else. You've got to be ready to go. You've got to be ready to execute. So whether it's journaling, reading, going for a walk, taking a shower, something else has to be in the place of the thing. You don't just get to say, I'm not going to do the thing and walk away. You have to have something else in place of the thing. Okay. So whether it's sugar, whether it's alcohol, whether it's scrolling social media, tonight, I decide I'm not scrolling all night long. Okay. And then ask yourself, why am I even doing this? What am I feeling? Stress, boredom? Am I lonely? A lot of times when people are lonely, they're scrolling, right? Sit with it. Most people aren't hungry if food is your addiction. They're overwhelmed. That food in your mouth for a moment makes you feel better. So replace the habit. Walk, water, move your body, turn on your music, call somebody, change the room, change your state. I decide. And then again, sometimes it's literally supporting your body, right? When's the last time you made sure you were hydrated, that you were eating real food? When's the last time you got in enough protein or you made your sleep priority? Okay. When's the last time you did some techniques to reduce the stress versus going for more of it? It's nothing worse than waking up with a mega hangover after your mega pint. Nothing worse. There's nothing worse than starting the day feeling that way. Nothing worse. When your body feels better, the urges go away. So you got to figure it out, man. You got to pause. You got to stop. Why am I going for this every single day before it gets out of control? Okay. And if it's already in control, same thing. We got to stop the pattern. We got to change your state. Very simple. But sounds simple, but doing it is where it takes the work. Doing it takes the work, period. Okay. I think about my brother today, how small things can become big things, and how many people are silently struggling. If he had only asked for help back then, if he'd only said, "This is how I'm feeling," back then, things could have been a lot different for him. And if you only asked for some help, things could be a lot different for you. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do this alone, okay? So you're not broken, you're human. You're human. And the hard part is that food is something, especially if you're addicted to sugar, if you're addicted to food, or if you're addicted to alcohol, that's all around you. You can get that very easily. A drug addict will always find drugs. Don't get me wrong on that. They will always figure out a way to find their drugs, but the other stuff is all around. It's in our face. It's in our face. So that's why you have to make that choice to choose something else. And it's not going to be easy, and you're going to need help, and you're going to need support, and you're going to need accountability. But the first step is you facing the problem and being ready to do that. So if you're living with a monkey on your back, if you're living in shame, reach out. Reach out. I'm happy to direct you. I'm happy to help you. And that's what I got for you tonight. So I can't even say happy 5-year anniversary to my brother. All I can say is today is 5 years since my brother passed, and it's sad. It's sad. It's sad for my mom. It's sad for his 3 sons. It's sad for his sister. It's sad for his siblings. I mean, siblings, I'm the sibling. His nieces, his friends. But I want you to know, if you're living with something, if you're living in pain, if you're living in shame, if you're living with something that you just can't cut, reach out. Reach out. I'm here to help. Okay? Mwah. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.